Our guest tonight is Melbourne Football Club's National Recruiting Manager, Jason Taylor, who has just completed his 7th draft for the Demons. Jason, thanks for giving up your time to join us on the Demonland podcast.
A pleasure, Andrew.
Jason, Luke Jackson at pick 3 was, at least in the eyes of some pundits, an unorthodox decision. It's unusual for ruckman to go so high. Can you tell us a little bit more about him and why he was such a compelling choice for the club?
Actually, Luke was, I was thinking about it the other day, he's the first player we interviewed this year back in February at home. So obviously, we had some, interest for a long period of time, and we're tracking his development over a 3-year period, albeit he hadn't played a lot of football. And the way he was able to improve over, say, a 25-game period at his elite peer level, really, playing for Waffle Colts and then his state and an Australian game was quite significant. I've been on record, in the past, previous conversations around the draft, that we don't see any barriers on Luke's game. So his primary role as a junior has been a ruckman. That's where he's played his best footy. He's been a high possession ruckman. But I was able to sit on him a fair bit in the latter part of the year, and was fortunate enough to see him play some, longer periods as a key forward. And his forward craft for someone who hadn't done a lot of it was quite natural, whether it be on the lead, contested mark, and his follow-up at ground level to get involved. So, it's not a guess. It's certainly got some projection with it, but he definitely showed that he can perform in that area of the ground as well. And then also he has played a couple of trial quarters for Western Australia in trial games where he's been as a genuine mid for an entire quarter and was able to get his hands on the ball. His improvement over the latter part of the year, post-Nationals, where he finished second in the Lark medal, was quite extraordinary, really, in all facets of the game. So we don't see it as a reach at all, and we see that he's got a lot of areas of his game that let's just see how it evolves.
I'm rapt that we did get him. I wonder whether if Gold Coast didn't get their priority pick, would we have gone for Anderson?
Yeah, I'm not really wanting to discuss our actual orders, but it's fair to say that we had Jackson right at the pointy end.
Fair enough.
So, we see, obviously, there's a lot of good players in that top 10 area, and they all bring their different talents. But we saw Luke as the best available player at that range, and so that's why we selected him.
With our second selection, we went with 𝗠𝗲𝗱𝗁𝗀𝗃, fulfilling an obvious need for a small forward. Why did you rate him higher than some of the other draftees who were playing that role available at that pick, Waitman and others like him?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Like, I suppose I was a academy selected back when 𝗠𝗲𝗱𝗁𝗀 played 16s. So, they had a real focus on that group then coming through, and like what I saw of him then, and also as a bottom age player, he's able to perform really well in finals. And whilst this year for him was a little bit indifferent, he was in an extraordinary amount of different programs. So his best football was off the back of a senior pre-season where he had real continuity in his training, and his performances in senior trial games, and then early on at reserve level, you really got to see what he did as a small forward. And throughout his nationals and also with his school, he played a lot of footy on the wing and in the midfield. So I suppose that took away his goal source a little bit, but it still showed what he could produce in those areas of the ground. Cody Waitman's a player that I really liked as a bottom ager. Don't often pick the eyes out of players, but he did take my eyes above the major. So we really like 𝗍𝗶𝘀𝘁𝗁 as well. They're two different small forwards. They're slightly different, if you like.
Yep.
We think that the ground level play of 𝗍𝗶𝘀𝘁, his speed and ability to put pressure on it, and his forward craft, his front and centre craft, really stood out. Whereas, Cody, whilst he has that, his main game is his aerial work. So at the end of the day, when you're picking that area of the draft, it's very close. So we just felt that 𝗍𝗶𝘀𝘁𝗁 was a better fit for our forward half, and we rated him accordingly. And so I hope that answers that.
Our third pick, pick 32 overall, was Western Australian Trent Rivers, who by all accounts was a bit of a slider. I understand he missed much of the pre-season with glandular fever and perhaps could have been even a first-round pick. Were you surprised that he was still available at 32, and whose role do you see him eventually taking over at the club?
I don't think you can sit here and say we're surprised. We were thrilled. And I think that what happens on the night is that, it only takes one player to slide a little bit, and then, that might go to a club that had an interesting, say, a player like Rivers, and it's a bit of a domino effect. So then you're hopeful, and then you hopefully can just get through clubs picks who might have him as high on their order. And that's generally how it can work at times. We see him settling as that rebound defender initially, with his ability to read the game and his kicking skills. But he has played, significant football in the midfield, where he's been, he's averaged 27 possessions and a goal a game at Waffle Colts. And as you say, coming off glandular fever, so he's delayed in his pre-season. So he's an excellent size, and he's a real powerful kid. So, but I think he'll start his football in defence.
How much senior footy, if any, do you see these guys playing in 2020, assuming we have a relatively injury-free year?
Yeah, that's right, and that's the hope that at the moment the boys are training well, and most are up and going and fit. And, first year players typically really you don't want to be calling upon. We're a relatively young list anyway. So, but I don't put any ceiling on any of these boys, and I know that they're competitive. And that competitiveness will drive them to strive to play as early as they can. They've all got traits that you can see them playing senior footy relatively early, but again, that's you just got to tread carefully with that.
We brought in three interstate players. How much consideration do you guys give to them perhaps being a flight risk or the return home factor, a few years down the track?
Yeah, obviously it's something that you do a lot of homework on and discuss, and it's a national competition, so we're charged with picking the best players that we see, and no matter where they come from. Some young men have greater challenges with that, and a lot of players move interstate because of the nature of the competition, and everyone misses home. It's just natural, but you do a lot of homework, whether it be through the player and the families and their management and referees, and you get a good gauge on that. And if you were a little bit worried about that you might push a player back a fraction.
Okay, we traded in two much needed wingmen in Tom Langdon and Adam Tomlinson into the team. It's an area where we've been lacking. How far in advance were you into these players, and when did we start exploring the possibility of a trade?
Yeah, so Tim Land, who's taken over as list manager now that 𝗍𝗶𝘀𝘁𝗁's departed. We've been tracking Ed Langdon since his draft year, and obviously Adam Tomlinson as well. And so it hasn't come overnight. It's been something that we've been looking at over a period of time. And I think that the way the year played out last year, and how, without going over old ground, some of our injuries showed up a lack of run. So it became more apparent, more important, albeit it wasn't as, I suppose, glaring in 2018. It certainly became more glaring last year. So it has been something we've been looking to do, and it's just been ability to manufacture it. Free agency with Tomlinson also allows you not to give up anything. We see Adams settling on the wing where he's played some of his best football, where he's just a real grinding runner. He's been thrown around a bit in recent years, so looking forward to seeing him settle down.
There's a lot of excitement around 𝗟𝗶𝘀𝗁 training with the club at the moment, starting this week. Have you been involved in that process, and what's the hope and expectation there? Can he play senior footy this year?
Yeah, obviously Tim Lamb and Josh have been heavily involved with that, and I was part of that process and met with 𝗟𝗋 as well. But it's a real just let 𝗟𝗋 settle in, and it's going to be a very, very gradual process, and a lot of water to go under the bridge before there's really any commitment can be made there. And we all know he's an exciting talent, so if it was to all the planets were to align and it was to work out, it would be great for the footy club. But it's just, I think everyone needs to just keep the powder dry a little bit on that one and see, and let the process take course.
We've just signed up delisted bomber Mitch Brown. He's just started training, I think, today for his first time on the track. If he ends up getting a spot on the list, can you see us playing three talls with Mitch alongside Weed and T-Mac, or is he likely to just be there as a backup, as a just in case?
Well, he signed yesterday, Mitch, so that's official. He's had a good year last year, and he does provide a different type of forward craft to the other two. He's a good ground level player as well. He's got some good footy smarts. He can really run. There's no limitations on how that looks, but certainly we just thought it was a good opportunity to bring in a player who's a good character, and he played some good football last year.
We've made some huge strides filling gaps in the list. Do you feel we're still lacking in any areas, and how do you rate the depth of the list overall?
Yeah, I was just looking through it last night. Look, I think it looks pretty settled, and it's one of those, when you're watching them train, so this time now as we speak, and then compared to last year, well, yeah, things look pretty good, I think, and the guys look really fit and healthy, and they're back to where they were. And I'm a positive person, and I think it looks pretty good in most areas. You just got to keep searching and evolving as you go, and as football's played, things become more apparent. But we think we've got enough, tall depth in both ends of the ground, enough midfield depth, which we'll continue to look at. We've added to the outside run, and our small forwards, like even Kay Chandler and Toby Bedford having really good pre-seasons. Charlie Spargo, until he just got a bit of a hiccup there, was as well. And they're all different types of forwards. We think that we're pretty well off in most areas, and now it's just about getting to work. And I think that was an attraction when you're looking at players like Pickett, Bateman, and the like, and particularly 𝗟𝗋𝗰, is that small forwards of that ilk, they just don't really come along too often. Over my career span doing it, there's been literally a handful, really.
Jason, we were fortunate enough to have 2 first-round picks this year. How hard has your job been in the previous 2 years when we haven't had any first-round selections because of the Jake Lever and the Stephen May trades?
Well, I think you just go about your business, because there's obviously with future trading, and you just don't know what can happen. And part of your thinking when bringing in a selection, which we've been able to do on a few occasions, is get them in now. If you rate a group of players, just maybe get them in now and get them going 12 months in advance. And who knows what can open up next year. And, so you just got to be mindful of that. It's not a decision that's done willy-nilly and giving away a future first-round pick. But what we're able to do is give away a future first-round pick to get a future first-round pick in. And through that process also, we've been able to turn effectively picked 97 back into 28, which then ends up 32 with academy bids. So it's been a really effective trade draft period from that sense.
𝗟𝗶𝘀𝘁𝗁 went down with an ACL injury in the pre-season and consequently didn't play a game. Tom Sparrow missed a large chunk of the year too with a knee injury. How are they tracking in their return?
Yeah, they're going well. Aaron's still non-contact, but he's doing a lot of the training though, like in that simulation. You might, if you're ever down a trainer, see him in the red hat. So he's non-contact there, and but he's going really well. He's a real strong runner, and he's got high footy IQ, so he just finds the ball, Aaron.
Yep.
So that's his strength. So they've been very impressed with him over the pre-season to date. Sometimes there's a silver lining out of an injury, and that's that you learn and grow, not only as a player but a person. And he's really settled in and having a good pre-season. And with Tom, I've been really pleased the way he's come back, and he's really strong and powerful and fit. And, I know that people at the club are excited by what Tom can produce, and he's training well, and been really impressed with his aerials work as well at training. Like he's had a real presence in the air and a couple balls off. So no, he's going well, and they've got some flexibility in their game, whether it's or midfield. Again, they're just youngsters like James Jordan. He's come back good as well, and he's delayed 8. You know what I mean? So he doesn't need games for this month. Yeah.
We just had you breaking up a bit there, and you were talking about James Jordan. That was the next one I was going to ask you about. But also, if you can give us how's young 𝗟𝗶𝘀𝘁𝗁 tracking this pre-season?
Yeah, sorry guys, I'm actually just driving down the ride. We've got the camp there with the coach and Shannon Burns today, later today and tomorrow with the new players. But he's going well. He's put on a little bit of size. He's a real project player, Austin, and he's just learning his craft and learning the training standards of a elite AFL environment. And he's taking steps forward each session, really. I had a bit of a hiccup with the calf, so that's held him back a little bit. But other than that, he's making progress, but he's a long-term project.
Jason, we're really grateful for your time. I've just got one last one for you. Presumably you're already working towards next year's draft. How's that shaping up, given that there's meant to be a large number of father-son and academy players, and a couple of other names that are of interest to Demonlanders, 𝗣𝗶𝘀𝗰𝘀𝘁 and Kalani White, son of Jeff. How are they tracking?
Yeah, Jeff's son's still a little way off, and 𝗣𝗶𝘀𝗁's obviously this year, and he's been playing some futures games with Peel Thunder, where we were able to have a look at him at the back end of last year. So we'll just keep tracking there. We've had him down at the club during the year, and it might have been middle of last year, but we just got to keep progress on how 𝗣𝗀𝘀𝗁's going. Obviously, Jeff's a legend in the club, and we'll be putting our best foot forward there. He's also next generation academy for Fremantle. You asked me about who was the other one. Sorry, mate.
The other one was Jeff White's son, Kalani, who you said is a way off.
So we do obviously keep progress there, but he's a bit behind in age. And also, we've got Deacon Smith coming through our next generation academy. So he's playing Dandenong Stingrays and also Caulfield Grammar. And he showed some improvement this year. We just keep an eye on those boys, and the next year's draft. Yeah, look, I think part of our thinking, we've been on record saying they're somewhat compromised, but there's still going to be good players there. So the academy weeks start next week, where we'll be able to sit down and briefly have some interviews with some of those players in the hubs, watch them train, We've got 2 players coming into our club, Phillips and Ollie Lord, who will spend the week with us. So we pretty much move straight into next year, next week. And then obviously Todd Patterson's been doing our futures work leading into that anyway. So we're pretty well placed on that. And there's always players that evolve. So, we don't know much about, which happens every year. So we look forward to getting into that.
Well, Jason, thank you very much for giving us your time today. We really do appreciate it, and it's a really great insight to the players that we've brought into the club, and we really appreciate your time. Thank you.
No worries. Sorry, it did break up a bit, some of that, mate, so I'm sorry about that.
Not a problem.
It's all good.
All good. Thanks,
Okay,
mate.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.